Hey all, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown, 24th of the 11th. Hope everyone's there. We'll start with eggs, some news stories to go through, of course, a couple of pages worth of news stories. We'll start with eggs, fun place to start. Eggs are currently being rationed. Welcome to 2022. Some supermarkets rationing the amount of eggs you can buy, whilst others are importing their eggs from Italy. There are many reasons for this at the moment, one of them being that we have currently the largest avian flu outbreak on record, which is nice, fun. I like how we're keeping on breaking records. It's every day a new record broken. Never seemingly upbeat news stories, but we are smashing records. Got another record that's going to be broken in the next story. The thing with the avian flu is, although it starts in wild birds, if it's moved over to like the poultry, if one bird gets it, then all of the flock must be killed. They're the rules that we put in place. Smart rules, quite honestly. Although you would have people arguing, well, you don't do that for people. People aren't animals, and you should stop fucking acting like they are. 2.3 million birds have died or been killed since October. Farmers, however, are blaming supermarkets for the eggs being rationed, saying that producers are not being paid a fair amount, with costs to producers, with things like chicken feed and everything going up by 90% compared to a 35% increase in what farmers are actually getting paid. Add on to that the energy prices going up, price of chickens have actually gone up, so when they're actually buying a chicken, that price of that chicken has actually gone up as well. Adding all of that together, producers are currently saying they're not being paid enough for making eggs, and at this point they're actually making a loss. And if you're making a loss doing something, there's very little reason in actually doing it. I'm not sure, maybe there are farmers out there who are just making eggs for the love of the egg, but there are going to be many more who are doing it for a business. So there's meant to be enough eggs about, but at the moment we can't get around to them. What else have we got? Net migration has hit its highest ever levels, to 504,000 in the year to June. The rise was driven by people legally arriving from outside of the EU, many fleeing war and persecution in Hong Kong and Ukraine. Also, you've got non-EU students and resettlements of Afghan refugees. This is what happens when you actually have legal, easy ways, well, not easy, but you actually have ways to come into this country. You'll constantly hear our Home Office and whatnot talk about, well, there are actually safe routes. There are many safe routes to come over here. There aren't. For the majority of people in this in the world, we have removed the safe routes. However, the likes of Hong Kong, Ukraine and Afghanistan, there are routes that we have available for people to come over here. Quite right too, really. Although we should have safe and legal routes for everyone. That is not the same as saying, let's just open the borders. Not saying that. What I am saying is we should have legal and safe routes so people don't have to make dangerous routes to give us lots and lots of fucking illegal migrants to come into this country via swimming through shit in the channel. Which this government attempts to play fucking battleships with people's lives. Oh no, you sunk my lilo. Tedious. Levelling Up Secretary and all-round cunt Michael Gove admits tens of thousands of properties across the UK are unsafe because they have not been looked after properly. This is not going to be a surprise to tens of thousands of people. Gove admitted significant number in need of repair or maintenance, with Gove claiming he was angry that thousands were living in poor conditions. Now, if only he knew who was in power for 12 years and allowed this type of shit to happen. If only there was someone who could tell him. This is the continuation of Tories pretending they've got emotions. And mate, I am fuming. I tell you, if I ever find out who did this, I will angry worded letter. It's you, lad. It's you. You did it. You're the ones in power for 12 years. Everything that's going on at the moment, you do have to take some fucking blame for it. And that landlords, the majority of landlords, should all be killed anyway. Let's be honest about this. Them and estate agents, absolute no point to them. Government have moved to cut £1 million funding from the Rochdale Housing Association. That was the housing association that was in charge when the 2-year-old child died from mould exposure in 2020. Yes, such an awful sentence. Dying of mould exposure in 2020. You would expect it to be, I mean, if that happened in another country, you would be like going, this is terrible, this is awful. Having it in your own country, Brobdingnagian disgust. Gove has also pledged to block new funding to other housing providers found to be failing tenants, and awarded an extra £14 million to enforcement teams to inspect private landlords. That is good news. That is good news. If you are failing tenants, you should not be getting money, and someone needs to do something about private landlords. My first suggestion is a rent lock. We need that. Or a rent cap, as they would end up no doubt calling it. We need that. Because it is ridiculous. I myself have been renting for years because I don't have money, and there's no chance of me getting any, quite honestly. And so I'm never going to be able to afford a place, so I have to rent a lot, and it means I've lived in rooms the majority of my life, dealing with some of the worst of humanity that happens to own homes, which is disgusting. Ill patients are refusing sick notes from GPs because they cannot afford to take time off of work. This is moving on for doctors suffering moral distress at their utter powerlessness to help the most vulnerable people, which I completely understand. You're ill, you shouldn't be going to work. Here's a note saying you can't go to work. No, I must or I die. It's madness, because you always have them people at work who come in ill, and I do not like them people. They're walking along like they're fucking martyrs, going, mate, no, I'm ill, but you know me, I just go into work. No, what you're doing is you're spreading your lurgy to everyone, meaning that you're going to make more people ill. That's not a good reason to go into the office. You shouldn't be going into the office if you're ill. But our statutory sick pay rules in this country are not necessarily up to scratch. Although lucky that we have any in the first place. You can thank unions for that, because the government would never allow such a thing. what we've got with people, what's been happening, more asthma attacks and other breathing issues as they cannot afford to heat their homes, deteriorating mental health due to financial stress because people are weak and get mental health issues because they can't deal with life, a rise in fatigue, mouth ulcers, and weak muscles. This is down to a poor diet. You're unable to afford lots of the food that you acquire on a day-to-day living, spending your entire time eating cheap shit. You're not getting the vitamins you require. You've also got a deficiency in key vitamins found in most people now. So at this point, well, I mean, we're coming close to a point where you're going to have to hope that when the rich start pissing on you because they feel that they can, that they've at least drank some fucking Barocca beforehand. So hopefully you get some vitamins in you. Nice tea, love a cup of tea. European Court of Justice has invalidated the anti-money laundering directive, whereby the information on the beneficial ownership of companies incorporated within member states is accessible in all cases to any member of the public. The ECJ claimed that it was an infringement on privacy to give the general public access to beneficial ownership information. This is quite a complex story, really. The ECJ went on to say that it is neither proportionate nor justified to give the level of access to members of the public that are currently being offered, saying that the updated anti-money laundering directive, with its increased interference with privacy, is not offset by any benefits with regards to combating money laundering or terrorist financing. So what they're not saying that the general public cannot get any access to information. They're not removing everything. What they're saying is that it is not available in all circumstances. So everyone in the EU can't just go on and type in and say, "Oh, who owns this?" Da da da. The issue is that it does feel like a step back from the ECJ with regards to fighting money laundering, which is one of the major EU policies. So that one of the main things that they want is to remove money laundering, have things more transparent. Well, that's what they say, but if they're fighting against the ECJ, looking with regards to privacy, it's going to be a harder slog. Final news story. Nearly 1 in 4 ambulance 999 calls could not be responded to in October, which is the most ever. Three records broken just in these stories. What a fucking great country we are. Beautiful. This was down to many ambulances being outside of A&E waiting for patient handovers. This is we've done stories in the past with regards to lack of beds and all of this. It's everything. It's just a constant cacophony of horse shit. You could be a conspiracy theorist and suggest that the reason that it's happening is that the Tories want us to move into a more American-based, you pay for everything health service. Could argue that, or just years and years of mismanagement, starting with the Labour doing PFIs, which are and were one of the worst things that has happened to the NHS. Because I mean, you go into privatisation. The problem with privatisation, especially in this country, is you look at everything that's privatised and you tell me which one of them is working well. Water, shit. Energy, shit. Rail, shit. And you want to chuck the NHS onto that as well, and it's shit because it's got fucking privatisation in there as well. It's not working for the major things that we need in this country. For the essentials, you should not have under private, because private is shit. They're just money hungry. That's all there is. The services, you rarely, unless it is a place that absolutely determines a service. Because this is the thing with privatisation. It can't work on a place where you do not have options, because customer service doesn't need. They just try to take money. If you go to a restaurant, you get shit service. You can go somewhere else. If you go onto a train and get shit service, you need to still use that fucking train. And that would be the exact same for the NHS. I can't go. I mean, I live in London. I can't go up to fucking Birmingham if there's a shit fucking hospital near me. Ambulance officers warned that people were dying every day as a direct result of this. So that's how we're going to end it. More deaths under the guise of Tory rule. It would be very interesting to look, considering you've got hundreds of thousands of people died because of austerity. A couple of 100,000 died over COVID. Going to have more policies that the government has done where could cause more deaths. It'll be very interesting to see just how much blood is on their hands. Well, still fight the good fight. Have yourself a cup of tea. So I will catch you all later. Thanks. Bye.